Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Prove Me Wrong podcast. I am your host, Pete Lieb. I'm glad you're all on board again with me today. It's technically a paranormal podcast week, but we are going to have a little bit of fun with it today. The Prove Me Wrong podcast is going to the movies today. Similar to the My Favorite Album podcasts that we've done in the past, I have a lot of interests here on the podcast. It isn't just conspiracy theories and ghost stories. No. Sometimes I like to have some fun, give an opinion, flex our muscles a bit as public influencers, right? Really, because all you need is a microphone and a platform, and you're an influencer. So that's what I'm trying to do. So today, my guest and I have watched and are prepared to review a couple of recent movies, quote unquote, horror movies. My guest today is cinema buff, entrepreneur, pest control expert, media mogul, and all-around bullshit artist, Dale Baker.
Thank you, Pete. It's great to be here.
No problem, man. Dale is a friend of mine from way back when we wore short pants. I'm happy to have him join me today on the podcast.
Right on.
And depending,
what a tremendous honor.
Right? This may be a reoccurring show depending on how he does. So I'm rooting for Dale, obviously.
Let's assume it's not going to be then. All right. Congratulations.
It certainly is touch and go. So welcome, yes. Dale. And how's it going?
Tremendous. Thank you, Pete. Like I said, it's a tremendous honor to be here. I'm really excited. It's always good to speak with you and catch up. And
absolutely.
We've been talking about movies for a long time, so it's kind of cool to let other people hear us argue about pictures. I like it.
I agree 100%. So to reset for the listening public, what we did was we decided to go through, ended up being 3 movies, and we just narrowed it down to horror just to give ourselves a genre for the first go out there. Maybe in future shows we'll mix it up a little bit more, but we wanted to stay focused here today. So I suggested one movie, Dale suggested the other 2, and we'll kind of go down through them and give our recommendations, give our review, debate a little bit whether or not, you liked mine, I liked yours, whatever we think it is. I have also initiated what I call the Dale Diamond Scale. So, 5 diamonds being, Gone with the Wind, 1 diamond being something else, something much more terrible than that. So do you want to start? How do you want to start? Do you want to start with one of yours first? Do you want to start with mine first? I'll let the guest pick.
Well, gee whiz, the guest always relinquishes control to the host. So, as in chess, smoke before fire,
okay.
et cetera.
Okay. So, all right. So then we'll do the one that I chose first. And what I had asked Dale to watch was a movie called Hereditary, and it was a 2018 drama thriller. It was directed by Ari Aster. He's also the same gentleman who directed Midsommar. It came out, I think, last year. Same type of genre, same type of movie, but different for sure. So the summary of the movie Hereditary goes like this. When the matriarch of the Graham family passes away, her daughter and grandchildren begin to unravel cryptic and increasingly terrifying secrets about their ancestry, trying to outrun the sinister fate they have inherited. So some backstory. My daughter and I, Lauren and I, watched this when it first came out, and we're just absolutely blown away by it personally. It stars Toni Collette, who is, if you don't know the name, is the mother from The Sixth Sense. She's been in a ton of movies. I know you've seen her face. Gabriel Byrne plays her husband. He was, again, another one of those actors you've seen his face 1,000 times. He was in The Usual Suspects. And then there were a couple of kids that I was not familiar with. Alex Wolff and Millie Shapiro are the cast. So I'll give a little rundown, Dale, give my thoughts, and then we'll let you jump in, okay? So The movie starts with the death of the matriarch, the grandmother of the family. And through kind of some of the exposition and some of the, the opening scenes, you could tell that there was a strained relationship between the mother and daughter. And they didn't get along well. They didn't have much of an interactions between them, not much of a relationship. And then after she passes, things start to happen that kind of gives the main character, her name is Annie, give her some insight into maybe what her mother was doing previously. To me, I mean, I don't want to give too much away, which is weird because maybe there's somebody who hasn't seen the movie. It's essentially about witches, right? I mean, that's basically what it ends up coming out to be. But
Pete, I hate to interrupt you, but we're going to have to do spoilers on this thing.
We're
There's
gonna
no
have to.
way. Yeah, there's no way we could talk about these movies. So let's say this.
Go ahead.
If you haven't seen this movie, stop listening and then put this podcast on after you've had a chance to watch it. It's free. Come on, it's on Prime. Let's go, people.
You're absolutely right. Okay, so spoilers then. There be spoilers ahead. So yeah, I was trying to think about that earlier. How was I going to get through talking about it without actually giving anything away?
Right.
For me, on the Dale Diamond scale, I'm just going to start there. For me, on the Dale Diamond scale, this movie is probably a 4. Yeah, I mean, I think that for a horror movie, there were some parts in this movie that were scary as hell. I think that majority of it was Toni Collette. She essentially plays a woman that is descending into some type of madness. At least that's the feeling you got. You couldn't tell. They did it so beautifully that you couldn't tell if she was going mad or if she was being manipulated or if what she was seeing was real or was not until you realized it was, right? Until you get to the end and you realize, oh shit, that is real. And now it's even more terrifying.
But and Pete, I hate to interrupt.
Go ahead.
And because I was thinking about this movie when we started talking about it. And then, of course, I rewatched it and I thought to myself, this is, the second time I watched it, I sort of saw some other things that I didn't really pick up the first time. And again, so the reality is it her reality or is this some other alternative reality that's happening? Or, and one of the big things that I think that I'd like to get your input on is how much, when things started going bad, how much of that was she actually doing herself? As you said, obviously, this thing starts to get, descend into madness. But at some point I asked myself during the second viewing, oh wait, she could be really making this happen. But let me go backwards. I want to say a couple things about this thing because look, on the Diamond Dale scale, I'll tell you what, fella, I said right here, I'm going to give this thing a 4 stars as well. Okay, 4 diamonds, I should say. And 5 stars is always reserved for magnificence. Can we agree to that?
We can agree to that. Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so now we've agreed that we are cool with spoilers. Let's start from the rip and talk about this bugger because there's so much crazy stuff happening. And it's like, at what point do the wheels fall off? At what point does it say, okay, that's getting kind of weird? And because there's so many crazy parts to this movie go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, just saying the last hour of it, your stomach hurts. I mean, the last hour of it, it's so tense, so intense and so stressful that you feel like your body has clenched. It's like the entire body muscle has clenched. Yeah. There's so much tension. Every scene gets progressively more haunting, more scary, more disgusting. Graphic to the very end where it's just you just cannot believe what you're seeing anymore. Right. So yeah, I think that the beginning of the movie, the first hour of the movie, up until the incident with Charlie, with the main little girl, up until that point, it's laying the groundwork, it's laying the foundation, and they did it right in this movie. There was a 2-hour movie. They spent the first half hour giving you the backstory, really building these characters, showing you who they are, what they've been through, allowing you to kind of get a sense that you know them, and so that when the shit happens later, you definitely kind of feel like you've known these characters, and so now you're seeing, oh my Lord, what's going on? It really turns once Charlie has her accident. I mean, and that was so. I mean, tell me the first time you saw that didn't just blow your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I assumed. Actually, I knew we were going to talk about this part because, frankly, this is shock at its finest. I mean, I can't think of another picture where you're just, plodding along, assuming this is going to be one of these kind of like horror movies
Mm-hmm.
that you've heard about. And by the way, let's take a step back. I mean, I saw this in the theater, and I remember how divisive the reviews were. Some people were
Yeah.
just like, "Oh wow, this is amazing," and some people were like, "This is the dumbest movie ever." And did you have that experience too, where you had seen some of the reviews before you even went into it?
I did not. I saw it at home. My daughter Lauren had said that she had some friends who said it was good. I saw a trailer for it, and I said, "Ooh, that looks spooky as hell." And that's really where we went on it. So I went in without any preconceived notion of what it was about or what it was. It was just
Hmm.
something that Lauren and we like to sit and watch movies, and so that was kind
Yes.
of our thing to do. And
Yes.
we picked that one because in October, during the month of October, the entire month we do horror movies pretty much every night. We just
That's awesome.
do one scary movie after another every night, and this was during October, and it was a new horror movie, and so we decided we're going to watch it. And then,
Right
so that's
on.
how I saw it. But yeah, right up until that point, it was just a nice slow burn. There was really just a bunch of people being cranky and aggravated with
Hmm.
each other. As soon as that point hit, then the movie started, and
Yeah.
then the shit started happening. Toni Collette, like I said, I've never seen an actress emote so much through her facial expressions and through her actions as I saw with her. I mean, I thought it was just a brilliant performance from her. I mean,
Agreed.
you believed it, you felt her 100% that she was
Agreed.
losing her fucking mind, and then
Yes.
you realized near the end she wasn't actually losing her mind. They were manipulating her the whole time
Hmm.
until she's finally. I don't know what the hell happened at the end there when she's like hanging up in the middle in the corner of the room. I mean, I'm sure you saw that when he first walked into the room and saw his father laying there, and then you looked
Yeah.
over his shoulder and saw her in the back corner. It's like, how the hell did she get up there? Because up to that point,
Yeah.
there was nothing really supernatural that had happened, and then
Right.
all of a sudden, all bets are off. All kinds of supernatural shit's going down, and oh my god. So maybe I jumped ahead. Maybe I jumped ahead of myself.
No.
I like the movie so much that it's hard for me to say really anything bad about it. I don't. The only thing I didn't
Right.
like about it was the boy. I thought the boy was a little bit annoying, but
Oh my God. Are you kidding? The kid was fantastic.
I
What are
didn't
you
say he
talking
wasn't
about?
fantastic. I just said he kind of annoyed me. But
So he was an effective actor.
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And
That's fair. So he effectively emoted something that irritated you, but something about his character is you did not like. You didn't. I think you've probably listen. Pete, I've known you for a long time. You're very intelligent, very handsome, very brave.
oh boy,
You know, so I think when you see a character who is going against your natural inclinations, you're probably show some distaste, and I think maybe that's what happened because let's face it. I mean, he's a millennial kid. His grandmother just passed away, and then the 25-minute in issue happens to Charlie. So that happens. And then obviously, he goes down this path. And don't forget, and again, this brings up what the role of the mother was. When remember, she was sleepwalking and she was doing things. So, and it's been going on. So she tried to kill him years and years ago. Okay. So it's not just like, oh, the grandmother died. There's this witch thing happening, blah, blah, blah. So we don't know how much Toni Collette was involved with this or her character, and that was something I thought, man, that really kind of put a twist on it. And if you really watch that again and you look at it in a different way, like how much involvement did she have in this, and was she part of any of this planning? And maybe subconsciously, or maybe she was being manipulated. We don't know, but her, instead of just like a passing a character that things are happening to, I think she may have had more of a role. Now that I really got down and thought about it, but and you're right, we are going to jump around a lot on this because there's this movie is the equivalent of House of Pain jump around. I mean, there's so many parts that you just start thinking about, and then all of a sudden it leads to another part. So I think we're going to have to agree that there's no linear discussion here. We're talking about the movie. We both really enjoyed it. Obviously, I think if we start off and we agree that this is, we're going to spoil it, but at that 25-minute thing that happens to Charlie is so shocking, and it really tells you, the audience member, that you're not at a regular horror movie anymore. You're not at your father's horror movie. This is something super new and pretty smart and very shocking.
I mean, it was yes. And again, I wouldn't want to say that because I just want people to see it for themselves and be surprised by it. But when it happens, you're right. It goes against really anything you've ever seen before. It really does. I mean, it goes against anything you've ever seen. You've gotten to a point now where, just to use an example, anytime there's a certain camera angle and they're in a car and they're driving in a cross street, there's going to be a car that comes and hit them in the cross street. You know what I mean? The first time you saw that was new and it was novel. Now we've seen it in every movie and every television show in the world. It's no longer new. So there's been so many movies and so many visuals that it's hard to find something that shocks you in a new way. And that shocked me in a new way. And there were a couple of scenes like that, quite honestly, that shocked me in a new way. When the boy goes, I can't remember what his name was, but when the boy goes up into in the attic and he's yelling at his mom, just please stop, and you hear the banging on the attic door, and then it shows you that she's on the ceiling banging her head against the door. Again, just shocked you in a way that you haven't seen before. I just like, oh my God, that's brilliant. That's just so awesome. And then somehow she gets into the attic anyway. I don't know how she got in there, but there she is up in the attic. So, I mean, scares galore. Sure. I mean, like you said, it's got just enough gore to it to appeal to people who like that kind of thing. It's got some supernatural parts to it. It's not just, it's not a slasher type movie. It's very supernatural. It's got a little bit of ghost action, or quote unquote, going on in there. It really has everything. It's incredibly well rounded. And at the end, there's a payoff. There is actually a payoff at the end, because they don't just tease you with all these things and then it's left ambiguous. They give you a very clear understanding of what the resolution was and what happens. So I appreciated that, because sometimes you see those movies and there's no payoff. Something. Oh, they leave it gray. They leave it up to your interpretation. There was no interpretation there. It told you exactly how it ended, and I actually appreciated it.
Oh, I absolutely appreciated the ending, and to get to the ending, though, there was a lot of pieces that I know you briefly touched on, but I think the thing that I really thought was fantastic was it was thrilling. I mean, thrilling, almost. It was like a thriller. So it's like it has a new horror vibe that was smart. It's thrilling. It's horrific. I don't know if I couldn't compare this to anything other than The Exorcist or the feeling you had the first time you saw The Exorcist. That being said, and I know you don't want to give too much away for folks who haven't seen it, so we are giving some spoilers. But what happens to Toni Collette at the end?
At the very end, yeah.
Yes, was probably the finest moment that horror's had in many, many years. I think there's no way to not spoil that, but it is so fantastic that it's shocking.
Well, like I said, every scene got more and more disturbing. Somehow this director continued to double down on it. Somehow you kept seeing these visions and these other imagery that you just hadn't seen before. You hadn't seen somebody do that to themselves before, really.
Yeah.
In that way. And every time for the last 40 minutes of that movie, you couldn't take your eyes off it. You couldn't breathe. Your stomach hurt because it was clenched the whole time. You have your hands over your face at some point. You don't want to see what's coming next because it's not going to be good.
You just
know it.
Good.
You knew it wasn't going to be good. So I mean, it was just brilliantly done, I thought. And so I went to see Midsommar, which was his next movie after that, because I was hoping for him to recapture that in a bottle. And Midsommar was
Yes.
good, but I don't know if you've seen it, but it wasn't
Yes.
even close to as good to me as what this movie was. This movie
I think it
was,
was.
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, the only thing I was going to say is I think it was different.
Yes, absolutely.
This was a this is like his first movie, I think. Okay, so he comes out of the box with something new, fresh, exciting, divisive, thrilling, dramatic. It was really good. I mean, it was excellent. Okay,
Mhm.
so the second one, what do you do to top that? Frankly,
I don't know.
how about a horror movie set in daylight? And and like you're talking about, the anticipation for Midsummer, to me, was greater than the anticipation I was feeling in Hereditary. Like, because at this point for Midsummer, you're sort of familiar with, these kids go away, they do something, they go away, and all of a sudden, these things start happening.
Mhm.
But because none of them put the brakes on and stopped, it just keeps getting, it keeps getting faster and faster and faster and faster. So I think that was probably, I actually liked that one more than I liked Hereditary. I think I would give that one a 4.1, and Hereditary with a 4 point, frankly.
Well, there you go. Our first disagreement of the night. So
Yes,
because
it's a throwdown now.
No, because quite honestly, if I had made Hereditary first, I would have made a comedy after. I mean, I find it hard to top that movie, because then you're saying, what are you going to do now? I would have done a comedy. I would have done something different. I mean, just something completely different, because I've already bottled that lightning. I can't get
Yeah.
it twice. But
Right.
but I mean, like I said, I liked Midsummer as well. So
Right.
I think that you and I both thoroughly enjoyed it. I would recommend it for sure to anybody who enjoys that kind of horror. I think it is the best horror movie that I've seen in 10 years. And I can't think of a horror movie that I've seen better than that in 10 years. And I can't even think of the one that I can't even think of the one that was 10 years ago that was better, quite honestly. I just saying it. But
yeah,
just for the sheer, just unnerving scare, you're not sure what the hell's going on. I'm not afraid of slashers. I'm not afraid of guys with knives coming into the room. I feel like I could fight that guy. I am afraid of the things that I can't see. I'm afraid of the things that are, untouchable, but they can touch you. And that's what we had that in spades in this movie. Things that you couldn't control, things that you couldn't touch, but they were still coming after you. And that's the kind of shit that scares me. So I love those kind of movies.
Right on. Yeah.
Right on.
And I've heard you and Lauren talk about a couple of the pictures that you guys watched, and it does sound like that's your go-to when it comes to stuff like, obviously, the slasher is just like, it's kind of been done already, and it's like, how bloody, how can you get,
right?
Versus like, do something that hits me in the nerves.
Yeah, after the original Halloween, I mean, the rest of them were all just a variation of Halloween. I mean, after the original Halloween, then there wasn't a whole lot left to do in that genre. But they've been making those movies for 40 years.
Yeah.
But I don't know, no doubt. I mean, I think you can always be fresh and original with a movie like Hereditary, because you can always go a different way with something that you can't actually see. You can't put your fingers on it. So,
no.
2018, Nick Cage. We're going to move on.
Yes.
2018, yes. Nick Cage, in a lot of faces that but names that I guarantee you cannot put your finger on. You cannot name any of those characters in that movie, any of those people in that movie, but I guarantee you've seen 6 or 7 of them in several movies, right? I mean, we're talking about Mandy. It was, again, a 2018. I don't know if I'd call it a horror movie. It was more just a revenge flick to me. But again, so Linus Roach, Bill Duke. Bill Duke's probably the only person that you actually knew, the guy from Predator. The black guy from Predator, if you've ever seen Predator. But like I said, it has a lot of characters in there, a lot of character actors that you've seen around. So there's a good cast. And I'll just let me give you the rundown of this too, since I don't have the trailer on hand to play. In the Pacific Northwest in 1983, outsiders Red Miller and Mandy Bloom lead a loving and peaceful existence. When their pine-scented heaven is savagely destroyed by a cult led by a sadistic Jeremiah Sand, Red is catapulted into a phantasmagoric journey filled with bloody revenge, and laced with deadly fire. So that's Mandy. Do you want to go ahead and start on Mandy? Tell us about Mandy, Dale.
Well, let me just say, I absolutely loved Mandy.
Okay.
And I recommended this. Basically, I thought it had a lot of horror elements. It's got a lot of fantasy elements after you've seen it. It's got a lot of like psychedelic to it. It's got an amazing soundtrack. It's super. That is its own character. It's so good. And of course, Nicky Cage, his best performance since Valley Girls. I mean, no one can take that away from him. There's so many great moments with him in this. It's fantastic. But visually, it's gorgeous. I mean, you could just look at any frame of this and just think, wow, that is so well shot. And like I said, like we talked about earlier, it's not this like super cookie cutter thing. Okay, here's your good guy, here's your bad guy. Then here's the arc, and then these guys go through this struggle. It's like, it just goes way off the rails. And that's what I loved about it. It was just like nutty, super nutty, absolutely gorgeous. Music's fantastic. Acting, awesome. I mean, at times it was crazy, just super crazy. That's my thoughts on it. Dale Baker's going to give that one 4.2 because I liked it way more than I liked a lot of other things that I had seen in 18. And absolutely, I did enjoy that more than I liked Hereditary.
You are going 4.2 Dale Diamond scale for Mandy, 2018. Okay. Okay. So let me start this way. I will agree. I'm going to agree. I'm going to start with where I agree with you, because I do agree that it may be Nick Cage's best role since The Rock or Con Air, something like that in the mid-90s, which I love those films of his. Maybe Raising Arizona. Raising Arizona was probably
was fantastic.
That was his best
right.
his best role
that
to
was
me.
That was his zenith.
Yeah, he's never been to the top of that mountain again. But this type of movie definitely fits his character. It fits kind of who he is.
Yeah.
I agree with you. It was beautiful shot for shot. It was a beautifully shot movie. There were some very good scenes in the movie. And yeah, I mean, the soundtrack was just psychedelic enough that it was definitely entertaining. So all those things I don't disagree with. I do think, to me, though, I think it was more style than substance if I'm watching it. I think that, this is the absolute opposite of Hereditary in the standpoint that it was also a 2-hour movie. They're basically the exact same length. And I didn't know one thing about Red or his lady, Mandy. I didn't know one thing about either one of those characters. Didn't know anything about them. So, whereas the first half hour of Hereditary built that family and built what their relationship was, Red and Mandy, you never figured it out. And for those of you, again, spoilers are ahead. So if you haven't seen Mandy, turn off right now, go watch it, and then come back. I didn't understand why he cared so much that they killed her, because there was nothing built up in between to begin with. So that was where I kind of got lost a little bit on it, because they made sure that those first half hours were filled with really long 4 or 5 minute shots of her walking through the forest and crazy psychedelic music and changing camera angles and lighting and looks like they spilled paint on the film to make it nice and pink and blue, and it was beautiful aesthetically, but it didn't move the story to me. It was just a scenery shot, and then she sees the cult. The guy decides he wants her. Don't really know why. I couldn't really tell you why, other than she looked at him. She looked at him and he's like, "Oh shit, I gotta have her." Which that could be it. Maybe he's just that damn crazy. That happens.
Yes. Could happen to anybody.
Could have happened to anybody, right? So that he decides he wants her. So then they summon. Who the fuck are these things they summon? This biker gang. I don't know what the hell that is. There's really no backstory for that. You got about a 5-minute exposition from Bill Duke later, the black guy later, who said, "Well, I saw them once from afar." Of course you did, because if you saw them close up, they probably would have killed you, right? So he saw them once from afar, but they just show up. They show up. They help subdue him, Red, They help
Mhm.
abduct Mandy, but they really don't abduct Mandy because they're still in the same house. All they did was basically just take Red out to the backyard.
Mhm.
So, and then they kill her, right? They kill her, and then that's what sets off the revenge. And then from that point on,
Yes.
the movie's awesome from that point on because it's just him kicking
Mhm.
one ass after another. So it's great
Mhm.
to watch him just beat ass. You know, anybody, I'd watch that for 2 hours, no biggie. But but my shortfall in it was the fact that I didn't know, one, what their relationship was. Two, when the fuck did he learn how to be a blacksmith? You know, there's this whole montage of him literally, you know, you're the best around. You know, there's him doing while he's hammering out this weapon that he's going to use. Where the hell did you get those skills, Red? Nothing in the movie has shown me that you could be a blacksmith. Where's this blacksmith? Where are you getting? Where's he even doing it? I couldn't even kind of place where he was, you know, blacksmithing. So
Right.
he's just suddenly there, and he blacksmiths this perfectly beautiful, incredibly violent looking weapon. And then he just goes out and just starts whooping ass, and he's some kind of Green Beret Navy SEAL fighter.
Mhm.
But I've never seen anything up to that point that give me the impression that he should be doing that. That's all I'm saying
Okay.
about it. But I mean, I was entertained. I was entertained by the movie for sure, but
Mhm.
not to the point where I would give it 4.2 Dale Diamond scale. I would have gone more like 2.5 on the Dale Diamond scale.
Oh, ouch.
Meaning that it was entertaining. I did not feel like I wasted 2 hours of my life for sure.
Okay.
But it
Mhm.
just had a few holes that if they had cut some of those 5-minute scenes of her walking through the forest to maybe 1 minute scene, and then taken the other 4 minutes and given them some exposition together. I mean, Red and Mandy never even talked, as far as I could tell.
Mhm.
There was probably
Oh.
there was probably like 4 pages of dialogue between them in the first hour of the movie.
Oh my God.
I'm just telling you.
Yes.
That's
All
what kept
right.
sticking out to me was that who are these people and why does he love her? You know, he does a lot of shit for her throughout the end of the movie, and I just never understood why.
Well, okay.
Go ahead now. I've decompressed.
Okay. Okay. Good. I'm glad you got that off your chest. But look, okay, going back to the original concept.
All right, go
let's
ahead.
consider this a fairy tale or a fantasy.
Yes.
Okay. And so where we start off where Red he's a lumberjack.
Yes.
And he's cutting down a tree. Okay. How like what other reference to an old fairy tale could you get other than starting off with a lumberjack in the middle of the woods and then he goes home to his wife and et cetera, et cetera. So like I feel like I didn't need a lot of background for this to me to understand that, you know, this was like a classic type character. Same thing with her, where she's an artist and she's working on things. They have this relationship. They live in the middle of nowhere. Don't forget when he was on the helicopter after they got picked up from logging. One of the guys asks him if he wants a beer. He turns it down. He says no, which to me is a hint that says he's had alcohol problems in the past. You know, these two aren't spring chickens, so clearly they met at a bar or met at AA or something, when there's another reference to that later in the movie. So I do see this as a mature relationship, but a loving, mature relationship. They're talking about planets. What's your favorite planet at one point? Again, I agree with the aesthetic part of it.
Mhm.
You're right. It's a lot of aesthetic, and sonically, that's the other piece of this thing. That's this entire other character that I felt was super involved with, like every piece of this, like anything that was happening, you could kind of feel what was happening with the visuals, and that sound was just incredible. But I get what you're saying, where you didn't feel like there was a relationship that was built up in ways that Hereditary was. Now, of course, two way different movies. They're both thrilling. They both have horror to them. And frankly, they could even be both mysterious at some point. That being said, when we start talking about the fantasy component, I really feel that it was easy for me to just go along with these magical monsters that were coming into this other world. I mean, you had the feeling that it was 1983 on Earth, but we don't really know. You know, I mean, we don't know. Nobody explained that to us. And so we're all under the impression that it's the reality that we're used to. And so these things cannot happen. Or if they do, then we have to question them, or at least, look outside of what's real. And so when he goes down this path and makes his own sword, axe, device, within, like I said, a montage of one song, and and we don't have any background on him. We don't know. And again, in that world, maybe everybody just makes their own axes. Who knows? I mean, there's so many pieces that don't necessarily need to stack up like exactly alike. And I feel like that's part of the deal. It's like you don't get all the pieces of the puzzle. There's a couple pieces missing, and you get to fill them in with whatever you want. And to me, I love that whole aspect of it.
Well, I guess if I was digging real deep, I could say the fact that he was a lumberjack in the Pacific Northwest means he must have had a troubled background, because nobody is a lumberjack in the Pacific Northwest unless they're running from something. So he was running from something. And they were nice enough to give her some type of scar on her face to make me surmise that maybe she was in an abusive relationship in the past, and so now he's her man. He's taking care of her. If you want me to really start getting into the nonverbal cues of what they had, but I'm not expecting them to be those two movies to be similar in any way. I'm more just I like to have some type of actual. Like I said, even if they even spent as much time as they spent on him building the axe, on just their history and their background, and they did it much better. Actually, they did have that one scene way late in the movie after he'd already killed everybody else,
right? And
they finally had that scene where he met her, and finally fleshed them out a little bit. But it was way too late at that point. Do that scene. That scene would have been significantly more effective to me earlier in the movie. Earlier in the movie, maybe even while he's sifting through her ashes, they flash back to that scene. Do you know what I'm saying there?
Yeah. That gives that more weight.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, right? You're saying it's in retrospect. This is a moment, and that's a curious point. I'd have to rewatch it to see when that actually happened.
It happened it happened when he got back in the car after he'd killed the cult leader. He'd gotten into the station wagon about to drive away, and he's losing his mind now because there's nobody left to kill, and he's successfully revenged her. But now what do I do? That's kind of the feeling I was getting from him. And then he looked over into the passenger seat, and there was her apparition, I think. And then they cut back to that scene with them meeting. That scene with them meeting would have been so much more impactful to me if it was while he was, like I said, sifting through her ashes, something like that.
And you want that foundation?
I do.
I get it.
I like foundation.
You want that foundation? I understand.
I want to know why he's brutally murdering so many people. I want to know.
Right. Okay. Oh, okay. By the way, okay. That being said, have you ever seen Memento?
Yeah, I have. Yes.
Okay. Now that was the very opposite. Did you like that movie?
I did. Because I wasn't expecting you went in understanding that you wouldn't know the backstory, that you would learn the backstory as the movie went along. You would learn it. So they set the scene pretty effectively. So I knew going into it, or I knew from the first couple of scenes that he was having a memory problem. All I was going to know right now was his right now, and then we were going to slowly peel the onion back and see his past. So I'm okay with that.
But you're not okay with it for Mandy.
Like I said, to me, maybe it is a big criticism, but it's a small criticism. In the overall thing of the movie, I just think that they could have made his story more impactful. Him going that level of rage and that level of ass whoop. Not even a thought of let me get the police involved, let me get the authorities involved. Not even a thought of what a normal person would do. It's I'm going to build some type of weapon. I'm going to go and find some random dude that wasn't introduced before that scene and wasn't talked about again after that scene. Just some random dude that just happens to have your crossbow. So,
okay. So again, Pete, all I'm saying is this: maybe you should inspect what you expect.
That's right.
Because you were okay with it for Memento. You're not okay with it here. That's okay.
Okay.
All right. So let me ask you before we move on, because I know. Because let me just say, you were a little more fast and loose with spoilers on Mandy than you were with Hereditary.
Oh, was I?
Throw that. Yeah, just want to throw that out there. I think you were, uh, to me, so that's an indication that you probably didn't care for the movie as much, and that's okay. We're not going to quarrel
Uh,
about this
maybe
because
it's,
I
maybe
do
it's
have
got
a real.
looser. I just got faster and looser as it went on.
I think so too. Okay, let me ask you another question then. Did Lauren watch it?
No, it was just me. I watched it. She was at that point. Was not feeling well. Yeah, she'd been sick for a couple of days. So like I said, I watched it over the last couple of days. That one and the other one. And
Okay,
so yeah, no, it was just me.
okay. I'm curious to see what she thinks of that picture.
Okay, I'll have her watch
Okay,
it. Sure.
okay, very
Like I
good.
said, I it is not a movie that I think is a waste of your time by any stretch. I definitely do not think
Oh,
that.
mm-hmm.
Like I said, two and a half means it's halfway to perfection to me.
Yes,
It's just not
yes.
quite there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, Pete, let me ask you another question.
Yeah,
What is a
absolutely.
waste of your time? What is a waste of your
The
time? If
waste
you're
of my time, if I was going to say, would be the 2016 B-list classic, The Greasy Strangler. I think.
Whoa! Now we're gonna quarrel.
I think
It's a grudge match now. What? What? What?
So Dale threw in one more, just kind of off the cuff. Hey, you have to watch this movie, The Greasy Strangler. So I did, being a good boy that I am. I went and I looked it up and watched it. Again, 2016. The cast is, I don't think anyone would know. I think it's all just kind of a, I don't know, B, C list cast, whatever it may be. You know, it's just kind of an independent type picture. The description here is Ronnie runs a disco walking tour along with his browbeaten son Braden. When a sexy, alluring woman named Janet comes to take the tour, it begins a competition between father and son for her attentions. It also brings about the appearance of an oily, slimy, inhuman maniac who stalks the streets at night and strangles the innocent, soon dubbed the Greasy Strangler.
Yes.
So, after I watched this movie, I'll start. After I watched the movie, I went online and started reading reviews. Started reading like people talking about it because I wanted to see what people felt about it. And I think it was probably 50-50. You either people thought it was brilliant or people thought it was the worst thing they'd ever seen. I quite honestly, and you know, so I was encouraged by that actually, because then that would kind of tell us why you and I are so diametrically opposed in our opinions of this particular movie, because I found it almost unwatchable, and I can tell that you love it. So why don't you start with what you loved about it?
Okay, and I appreciate that. And now,
yes,
Pete, let's take another step back.
Okay, let's do it.
I want to ask you a couple questions.
All right.
We grew up together. We did a lot of quoting of movies together. I mean, that's a bonding thing, and
that's right.
It's just something. It indicates this, a cultural significance between friends, et cetera, et cetera. What's the last movie you've seen that you're able to quote with your friends? Be honest.
Maybe The Other Guys with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Well, yeah, I have. What year was that, and who are you quoting?
I think that's
with?
probably 2010, and I quote it, quite honestly, I quote it with everybody. But I don't know if I quote it with my friend. I don't know if I quote it with them or I just quote it at them, because I think it's so damn brilliant that I just keep throwing it at them.
Okay, so you are pushing that one.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's like Talladega Nights. When you watch it,
okay.
If you watch it 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 times, it gets funnier and funnier and funnier.
Yeah.
It's funnier
it's like
on the fifth.
wine.
Yeah, it's funnier on the fifth watch than it was on the first. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so now you're going to say to me, hence why I threw in the whole expert bullshit artist at the beginning of the show. You're going to show me some of these quotable lines from The Greasy Strangler.
Oh, that's what the entire movie is one big meme. I mean, there's so many ways to quote this because, everything from this ridiculous conversations to all of a sudden they start speaking German for no reason at all to, it's literally Toxic Avenger meets Napoleon Dynamite. But I think it was beautifully shot. And okay, think about this one for a second, Pete. If somebody came to you with this concept, and they didn't make a movie before this, right? they came to you with a concept and they said, "Hey, we need $6 million or $10 million."
Mm-hmm.
What would you say?
I would say no. If I read the script first, I would say no.
Right. So somehow those guys were able to get enough money together to make a really nice looking movie. I mean, you could there's seams in it and stuff like that you could see, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not. It doesn't look like a cheap movie, and frankly, there's nothing about it that is, you would say, "Oh man, that is a poorly made movie, poorly constructed movie." Do you agree with that? It's at least a well constructed movie.
I think that there are pieces of it is not the worst made movie I've ever seen. No, that is correct. It is not.
Mhm.
I would I would agree with you. And I'll be honest with you, I did feel like I knew I had a better understanding of those two people than I did about Red and Mandy.
Oh, geez, we're going back to this.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Okay. So you like character development. That's totally cool. I got it. I'm okay with some mystery. Okay. I don't,
Yes.
I don't need I don't need to be spoon fed some of this stuff. I like to have some missing pieces so I can figure out some stuff, or I put my stuff on those guys.
That's
So
right.
I'm even more part of it at some point. But okay, and that's fair. You like the character development. You like the arc. You like these. Did you like these guys as people?
No, I would not say that I liked either one of those guys as a person.
Okay.
And I would agree with you. That's actually a line that I written down, was that this is Napoleon Dynamite 25 years after high school graduation. That's what this is. That's what it felt like to me, listening to Braden talk.
That's what they graduate to.
Yes,
Interesting.
listening to Braden talk to his father and just talk in general. That's
Mhm.
what it looked like to me.
Mhm.
But no, I did. I mean, believe me, I've said bullshit artist more than once in the last 3 days. So,
Yes. Yes.
that part did. And I actually said, Rudy Tooty Turbo Cutie or whatever it was.
Rudy Tooty Disco
Cutie. I said that
Yes.
even a couple times because they beat it into your head, saying it 42 times in a row, literally 42 times in a row. And that whole scene with those three immigrant dudes talking about over the chips, the potato chips. Potato. What? I don't understand you. What type of chip are you talking? Potato. What? I try one more time, over and over and over again for about 9 minutes. They're trying to understand that the guy is saying potato, but he's Indian, I believe, and so he's saying potato, whatever, and just a little bit off. It's like, oh my God, when is this scene going to end? It just kept going.
Yes, that's what even more sweet, because they just run it. They've realized that film doesn't cost anything anymore. It's digital. So let's just keep rolling and just see where it goes. And I love that part of it. Oh, okay. Pete, let me ask you a question.
Absolutely.
Is peeing private?
It depends on who you're peeing in front of. I don't think it's private to somebody, like my wife or my kids. I don't care. I pee in front of them all the time. But to somebody you've never met, probably.
Yes. Okay. And in front of your son's girlfriend, it is probably frowned upon, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So again, and I'm saying that because in the line is, she's like, peeing is private. And of course, that becomes one of the other lines that carries away. Or when Big Ronnie talks about, I'm going to dunk my dog all the way in, or I'm going to choke on this because it's not greasy enough, or... I mean, I could go on and on and on and on, but let me ask you this. It sounds like you were really more offended by the frontal male nudity.
No, I mean, I didn't see much of a purpose for them to walk around nude the whole time, but, that didn't bother me so much. They were all naked. The whole cast was naked pretty much the entire movie. I mean, both him and his father and the girl were naked the entire movie.
Yes.
There was just... there was no rhyme or reason to it. There was no rhyme or reason to why they were naked all the time. Why he is killing who he is killing. He's out there greasy strangling people. There were a couple of them that I understood why. I understood why the hot dog vendor. I understood why the immigrants. Didn't understand why the pig nose guy. They were supposedly friends. Didn't understand why the guy at the car wash. They were friends. What he's just losing it. He's just losing control now, and he's like, I'm just killing everybody. I don't I don't get it, but I don't think I was supposed to get it.
No, I don't know. And again,
I
maybe
think it's just because they
and
only
somebody
had the budget for so many characters. And so for him to continue to strangle people, he was going to have to strangle characters you've already seen.
could be. It
That's it.
absolutely could be. And yes, because if you notice, like at the disco, you remember when he takes her to the disco,
Mhm.
Janet, and he's disco dancing with her, and then the guy from the movie theater earlier is then disco dancing with them.
Right.
So you're right. I think it could be a casting issue, but the bottom line is it's so fucking good because these guys are so outer space and like it the whole thing, and those prosthetics for frontal nudity was like just shocking. The thing was like it was shocking, and half the comedy was them standing around naked delivering these lines like, wow, that's it's just so off the wall. The
Mhm.
music, it was just really like awkward and uncomfortable, and it just kind of like added to that uncomfortableness. And the characters obviously were just ridiculous. And then I don't know, like I said, I love the whole aspect of it's a quotable movie, and I don't think we've had anything like that since, I'm going to go ahead and say, since Talladega Nights.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, again. So what do you give it on your Diamond Dale scale?
Oh,
What's the Greasy Strangler? It can't be better than Mandy. Come on.
Oh, no.
If you say that movie's better than Mandy on your Diamond Dale scale, I'm throwing the scale out because obviously it doesn't.
Okay.
It has no value.
Okay, I'm gonna say this is very specific genre. This is more comedy than horror.
Yes.
And it's God, gee whiz bang zoom. If I had to put a number on it, I'm gonna go with 3.5.
3.5 Diamond Dale scale. 3.5.
You know what? No. Let me. I want to hang on, everybody. I want to crank that up to 3.89. Is that pi? What's pi?
I think pi is like 4.12 something.
Fine.
Yeah. Okay. So I agree that there is an audience for it. And I validated that by looking online, and I did see people who just thought it was brilliant. The same way that people thought Napoleon Dynamite was brilliant, and I couldn't stand it. I'm not going to lie. I watched it, and I did not like it. So,
whoa.
Yeah, I didn't like Napoleon Dynamite at all. I didn't get through the whole movie. So
okay. How many times you've never seen it all the way through?
Not all the way through. No.
Interesting.
And
how long has it been since it first came out?
Yeah. I mean, I watched it, maybe a year after it had come out, and I didn't make it through.
So we got to watch it now.
Okay. Well, which is the same thing as this one. If I don't know that I would have made it through if I hadn't been doing it as homework. I would not have watched it for longer than half an hour.
Okay. What was your favorite part before you give us your Diamond Dale?
What was my favorite part? My favorite part was when Jody comes over, and Jody's the cop, right? And they call the cops on his father
Jody,
being the Greasy Strangler, and Jody's coming. The cops are going to be here tomorrow, and his name is Jody. That's the way he talks. And then you see this long fingernailed hand come over the fence, and it's him in a ridiculous costume. And these two dumbasses are too stupid to realize that it's the father. And then again, they have that same unnecessary or just incredible back and forth where he says, "No more inquiries on this point," and then he asks the question, "No more inquiries on this point." But what do you think about "no more inquiries on this point"? And he just keeps doing it over and over and over again. Like every scene was. Yeah. I could have done with 2 of those, and you went to 12. You went 12 of that. You said it 12 times. That Rudy Tooty Disco Cutie, they said it 40 times, in one scene, 40 times, just kept saying it. And they were in different positions, dancing around, and you could have done it with 2 times would have been good.
Okay.
But Jody was my favorite scene in the whole movie because just the ridiculousness. Somehow he makes a phone call, and his dad is on the other end of the phone answering it as the police. And then he comes in dressed up as Jody. And of course, why is his name Jody? Who knows? Why is his name Jody? With these these ridiculously long fingernails, and he's trying to pose himself off as a policeman. in braces and obvious dentures because his teeth are falling out of his mouth as he's talking.
Yes.
And he hasn't really changed his look. He just put sunglasses on. His white shoulder length hair is still there. It's super ridiculous. That's probably my favorite scene in the whole movie. I'll be honest with you. That's probably it.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then the tone change at the end. There was such a weird tone change at the end. I would be remiss if I didn't point that out, because you're going through in a certain way. And I don't even mind that when Braden becomes the second Greasy Strangler, what they end up doing together. I don't even mind that, because they had kind of led you to believe it was going to go a different way. And then when he got there, he actually did what he did. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to give the spoilers away. You told me I was too loose with Mandy. So
yes. Oh, I'm sad now. Yeah, you're right. That was a bummer.
Yeah, right. So, but then he, then they go off on this. I don't know what they're doing. A camping trip. I don't know what that is. They're just walking through the woods covered in grease. I don't understand it. So, I was just confused by most of it. I'll be honest. There were individual little pieces of it that I thought I giggled once in a while. I actually got more entertainment out of it the last half hour because Christina walked in and she sat down and she goes, "What the fuck is this? What am I watching?" And,
oh my God.
And that gave me more enjoyment, quite honestly. That's what got me through the last half hour, was hearing her guffaw and scoff and try to, "Why are you turning this off?" It's like, "Because Dale wants me to watch it." And so then she had to shut up. So it was great.
Oh my God. Dude.
It was excellent.
Now she has to watch it, because now she'll be confused if she doesn't see the beginning.
Exactly right. So so that's what happened. I would give the Greasy Strangler. Like I said, there is an audience for it. I am not among those people who is in the audience. I would give that Greasy Strangler a 0.75 diamond scale.
Whoa! Ho!
I did not.
Second, fella. Whoa!
I'm telling you what, the Greasy Strangler made me think that Mandy was more like a 4.5. I mean,
now wait a minute.
In between the two, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Look. Now, okay. So if say 5 is excellence,
yes.
0 is absolute incompetence.
That's right.
2.5 is average and competent, average, and entertaining, etc.
Yes.
This is okay, and so 1. You're saying it's below a 1.
If I would not have finished it, then it's below a 1. I've finished a lot of terrible movies. I finished them, and I consider that, well, that's a 1. But I would not have finished that movie if it hadn't been not for this.
If
it hadn't been for this, I would not have finished it.
Oh my God, that is shocking.
I'm telling you,
that is shocking. Oh my God.
But I'll be honest, it wasn't for me. But I get why some people like it. That's the truth. I do get why people would like it. It just wasn't something for me. I didn't like it.
Okay. Forget your likes for a minute in terms of your taste. From a competency level, let's just say we're doing a competency scale. This is a well-crafted movie from 0 to 5. Once again, nothing to do with this is all everything from editing, sound, the acting, script, whatever you want to say, in terms of a competent movie. What would you rate it then?
In terms of the competence of the people making the movie, I don't know, maybe a 3.
Okay, so that's above average.
I think it's competent. It was fine. It was that you could tell that, like I said, they had a budget. They did the best they could with the budget they had. Yes. Like I said, it wasn't I've seen worse shot movies. Hell, I've seen worse acted movies. But
of course you have.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. So
we all have. Yeah.
Like I say, it was really more just. I don't know. It did not connect with me, and and there was only so much of something about grease just makes me sick. Thinking about
of course.
Thinking about cooking things in grease just makes me sick, and I was just feeling nauseous about the whole thing. It was just nasty.
It's uncomfortable. Everything about that.
The whole movie was uncomfortable. Yeah.
Exactly.
Having to see that guy swinging cock the whole time was uncomfortable. I don't want to see that the whole time.
Swinging cock, and when they're wearing clothes, how uncomfortable do they look while they're wearing the clothes? I mean, everything about it is uncomfortable. you got to be comfortable with your sexuality and be comfortable with watching things that are uncomfortable to be comfortable with this picture.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Sure. I just, whatever. I didn't see the point. I didn't see the point to it.
Okay.
Like I said, I saw the point to Mandy. I got it. I had little, again, it might have sounded like it was more than that, but I had small critiques of Mandy. I think Mandy could have just done a little bit better to give me a little bit more as to why he wanted to do what he did. And that's it. I think if they had taken that little bit, but the director to me seemed like an art student who wanted to make it visually stunning, and it was mission accomplished. Right. I mean, it was visually stunning. Hell,
definitely don't.
If you were high, if you're high watching that movie, it's a 7. I mean, it'd be amazing.
Yeah, it's over
the top.
It's over the top. Or what did I say at the wedding? It was, we're beyond Saturn.
That's right.
Bar, whatever the hell it was. But no, seriously, I agree with all that, and I just think that that Mandy. Oh shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. I'm a jerk. Forget it. Keep going.
Oh, okay. Well, no, that's really all I got. I mean, so just as a recap, I think we both liked Hereditary. I think I gave it a 4. Didn't I give it a 4?
Yes.
And you gave it a 4, something like that. We both gave it a 4 on the Diamond Dale scale. I would definitely recommend it. I would even recommend Mandy. I don't not recommend Mandy personally. Like I said, I just had some small critiques to it, but it does have a lot to offer. It is, I think, Nick Cage's probably one of his better roles that I've seen him in a long time. And and he does hundreds of movies, so you'd think every now and then he's going to find one. But I think that type of role really fits him because he didn't have to say a lot. Quite honestly, it wasn't him talking a lot. It's like one of those Keanu Reeves movies where he's always better when he doesn't talk, and he's just physical. So Nick, even though Nick can deliver a line, like when that guy cut in and they had that fight scene in Mandy where he cut his shirt. He's like, "That's my favorite shirt," something silly like that in the middle of a fight. But so he did a good job in the movie. The movie overall was very aesthetically pleasing. Small critiques on that one. I think that's a 2.5. Hell, I'll even give it maybe a 3. I mean, it's not a bad movie. It just had some holes that I think could have been filled. You were much more into that movie. You gave it a 4.2, something like that?
Yes.
4.2 on the Diamond Dale scale?
Yes.
And then we varied wildly on The Greasy Strangler. You thought that The Greasy Strangler was a 4 point something. What'd you say? You said 3 point.
Yeah.
You said 3.89. 3.89
Yes.
for The Greasy Strangler. I thought that The Greasy Strangler would be lucky to get one Diamond Dale scale.
Fake news.
But that's okay. So, like I said, it has an audience. They're just not mine. So, before we go, then Dale, because we're right here at the hour.
Yes.
Anything else that you'd like to add about anything we've said so far tonight?
No, I did remember what I was going to tell you about. I know you said, look, this the aesthetic of Mandy just did match the story. That reminds me of this other picture that same kid did. He did one called Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Yes.
And that was even more like just like super modern, the kind of like just this really bizarre. It's all aesthetic and the story. I think there's only 2 or 3 characters in the whole picture, but anyways, that one was something you should definitely, if you didn't like this one, stay away from that one. But I'm concerned about this Napoleon Dynamite situation. I feel like you're missing out on an opportunity.
I am willing to watch Napoleon Dynamite, and you and I will get together on our next version, and we will do a critique of Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes.
How about that? We'll put we'll throw a couple more in there too, just because 3 seems like a good number for the time limit.
Yes.
And we'll do a couple. We'll do a couple of movies that are similar to that one, or comedies maybe, and then we'll do that critique. I'm totally fine with that.
Right on.
All right.
Well, speaking of totally fine, I think I just wanted to take this opportunity to say, Sweet Pete, you're a real Rudy Tooty disco cutie.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And I mean, yeah, that's the highest compliment a guy could get, I think.
No, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it and put it in my my heart-shaped box and keep it for a cloudy day.
Awesome.
That'll be great. Well, I'm going to let
Tremendous.
you hang around here with me for a second. I'm just going to say to everybody there, everybody out in listening land, what do you think? Have you seen these movies? Have you seen Hereditary, Mandy, or The Greasy Strangler? Do you have any thoughts about it? Who's closer in your mind? Do you think that Dale here on this diamond scale? These are obviously three movies that he really enjoyed, or do you feel more like me, who I definitely liked one of them a lot, the other one I liked, and then the one I did not like at all. It is what it is. How do you feel about that? I mean, you can contact us on our email address. It's provemerongcast@gmail.com. You can also leave a message for us on Facebook or Instagram. Prove Me Wrong is the name. You can just search either one of those sites and you will find us. If you're just looking to find the podcast itself, you can go on really any podcast app that you use. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio. Really, again, anything that you find podcasts, you can find the Prove Me Wrong podcast. Like and subscribe. You'll be the first person to get notified when we have new content. We have a new show release every week. So we're also on YouTube. That's what I'm on right now. If you can look right here, there's a like and subscribe scroll at the bottom of the page. Like and subscribe to the page. You will be notified when the next Prove Me Wrong podcast is released. I do want to say before we go, thank you so much again to Dale Baker, media mogul, film school dropout, apparently.
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades.
Master of none. Thank you very much.
No doubt.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It was good to chat with you as usual, brother.
Absolutely. But you provided some additional insight to the movies. Maybe appreciate them a little bit more. I'll give you that. So I do want to say before we go, once again, this episode of the Prove Me Wrong podcast was brought to you by our friends at Java Remix. Java Remix is the perfect blend of 100% organic Arabica coffee. It's infused with nano-emulsified CBD oil. So you can start your day off the right foot with a great tasting cup of coffee with all the benefits of pure CBD. Java Remix offers traditional ground coffee, as well as K-cups, teas, bath bombs, face scrubs, you name it. If you aren't a coffee person, there's plenty of options for you. As an added benefit for our Prove Me Wrong listeners, go online right now on javaremix.com. Enter the promo code Prove Me Wrong for a 20% discount off your entire shopping experience. And Java Remix also offers free shipping for all orders over $40. So you have literally no reason not to try it out. So once again, that's javaremix.com, promo code Prove Me Wrong. We're also brought to you today by Zendozone Citronella Burners from JT Eaton. They're shaped like fearless little bug-repellent tiki gods. Let Surf and Stan, Hawaiian Howie, and Luau Lily bring the islands to your backyard with Zendozone Citronella Burners. Zendozone uses natural 3% citronella candles and incense cones. They're perfect for patios, decks, backyards, campsites, poolsides, and more. You can enjoy the outdoors again. They are available on Amazon and at select Ace Hardware stores, so go ahead and collect them all today. So once again, I'm Pete Lieb with Dale Baker here, my buddy.
Hello.
Doing a little movie review. We'll be back with another movie review in a couple of weeks. We'll do Napoleon Dynamite and others, so stay tuned to that. So once again, for the Prove Me Wrong podcast, we'll talk to you again soon.